Hey, what's up? It's Chris Nunn with Seven Sounds Productions. So today we're going to talk about vocal tracks. After we've laid a vocal performance, whether that's singing or rapping, or maybe dialogue for a podcast or a class. Once we've recorded um, our session, what things can we do to help clean it up a little bit, using EQ or equalization. If there's unwanted noise in there, what can you do to, what tools are at our disposal in Cubase AI that will allow us to kind of remedy some of the problems without having to go back and re-record over and over again, or just for one little thing that can be fixed easily. So we'll kind of dive into that. So let's take a look. So here's Cubase AI, and we've already have a track ready, a vocal that I laid, and then we'll just listen to it a little bit. Hello, this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how high filters and low filters and bells and shells. So as you can see, there's or you can hear, there is a sound of my computer fan humming in the background. So, one of the things I would do if I was recording a session is I would, have that on silent for the session. And then once that's set, put it on silent mode and call that. All right, you can go away. And then another thing is let's take a look at that. So when you double click on this, this bottom portion, we'll take that away. And when you double click on a recording, it will open up the editor in this little sub window right here, so you can kind of zoom in without having to play around up here, and you can audition little areas just to see what things sound like. So let's look. The scrub tool, is there a scrub tool? There might not be a scrub tool on this, is there? Oh, here's a scrub tool. Scrub. So you can kind of use this tool to. So what I did was inside this window here, I went to this. It says scrub right here, and you can hold down the left button on the mouse, and you can just hear certain parts of it with great control. Or you can just play high filters and low filters. And you can see these two areas are matching up here and right here. This is just a zoomed in version. What's cool about this is now I can, get even greater detail right here. I can widen it up and look at it. And now I can see, hey, here's my words. But when you look here, so I'm going to click back to the selector, you can see like there's little pops, clicks, maybe you touch the microphone, or maybe it's just things and sounds I made with my lips. And what I can actually do, so let's see what this is. It's like a little click. Hear that click? Pop. So I'm like, hey, I don't want that there. So what I would do is go to my selector, go to highlight the little pop that I don't want, and then go to audio, process. So one technique you can do is you can it's just silence. Yeah, hit silence and it'll erase it, right? Now, because you did that, you have that constant hum from the fan in there. That might sound unnatural. Let's go back to our area. This is a test. Hello. This is a. You heard it kind of dipped in, dipped out. This is a test of microphone. So, say we want to do that one of the things you do is, and we want to keep that, I would fade in and fade out. So fade out would be, it gradually dips off right here, and then when I fade back in, it gradually fades back in. It's a slightly more natural sounding cut, and we'll just demonstrate that. Audio, process, fade out. Here's your fade curves. So how drastic do you want that to be? On this one, I'll say right here. That's good enough for me. Okay. And then here I would fade in. Let's start at the beginning. Audio, process, fade in. There, you see it changed. So now it's listen. Boom. Hello, this is a test. Hello, this is a test. So you hear that it kind of went out and went in, so it sounded less jarring compared to this. Hello, this is a test. Hello, this is a test. So it's more jarring the way it dips out that way. And let's put it all back. So here is that pop again, put it back. Hello, this is a... So a better way, I think, sometimes is to zoom in even closer just to get this little pop, and then go back to audio, process, gain. Sometimes it's a little bit better, and you can, instead of like totally erasing everything, we just turn it down a little bit and see if we can get it to a manageable level. This is a see, it's a lot better and a lot easier than fading in, fading out. It's one click, one process instead of the fade in, fade out, cut. So 3 instead of 3. So this is a test of my. So not too bad, right? So the better idea would be, get the fans to be quiet. But if you couldn't get rid of the air conditioned hum, then that's one thing you can do to help hide or mask or get rid of unwanted sounds or noise out of your recording. And I see it pops something up here at the beginning, so let's see what that is. Hello. Hello. I didn't hear anything. Hello. This. And if I want to be a real stickler, and that fan noise was getting on my nerves a lot, then I would take the time and like go through and I've done this before, and I would just gain, reduce all that. You have to be careful, because this is someone talking right here, and just because you see it cut off over here doesn't mean that part of the last thing that you said, like a long S sound, didn't kind of carry over. So let's see what that is. This is a hello. So it's kind of a breathing. So let's see what that sounds like if I cut it about right here. And this is where I would kind of still do the gain reduction, but then I would fade that out right here. So it's a little bit more tedious, but you always want to fade out. Once you do big cuts like that, you always want to fade out and fade back in, and that will be a lot better. So fade out, and then we'll fade it back in somewhere over here. Fade in. So let's see what that sounds like. Hello, this is a test of microphone. All right, so that hum still plays while I'm talking, because that hum is going, over my voice. This is a test of microphone. So let's see if we can, we'll just loop it for this area right here. Hello, this is a test of microphone. So let's see what else we can do. Let's look at the EQ and see if we cut a little bit of the high. So in order to see the EQ on this specific track, you hit the E, which is channel, edit channel, and then you can see I did a low cut already, so I'll just take that off and we'll just listen to it.
This is a test of microphone.
So let's see what happens if I do a drastic low pass. So
Hello. This is a test of microphone. Hello. This is a test of microphone. Hello. This
see
is a
now
test
if I
of
cut too much,
microphone.
it's unnatural, right? It's very muffled. So in efforts of trying to cut that high pitch hum out from the computer fans, I've now have degraded the quality of the voice. So, it's a happy medium. And there's other tools, there's free tools, free plugins that you can get, AI plugins that can help you cut that even more out in a lot less easier way. But if you're just using Cubase AI stock, then this is, things that you can do to try to help alleviate the issue.
Hello. This is a test of microphone. 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 Hello. This is a test of mic.
So I cut some of the boominess out of the voice. But let's see what happens. What else we can do? So let's see if the hum is. Let's see what the. Another thing we can do is we can try to isolate that hum too, and figure out if we can use the gate to kind of hide it too. So let's see. Not right there. I cut that. How about here?
Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how.
See, when we cut it, even in the EQ, now it's barely even audible. So if I can't hear it.
Let's see how. Let's see how. Let's see how. Let's see.
Okay, so let's look at this. I think he was already kind of cutting it off.
How. Let's see how. Let's see how. Let's see how.
So you see how.
Let's see how. Let's see how. Let's see.
So the gate kind of was already catching it. Make it hold for longer. See if we can get it to hold longer, and let's see if we can kind of isolate what frequency that hum is at.
How. Let's see 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 how. how, 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 let's see how, let's see how, how, let's see 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 how. So you can see with the gate, it cuts it down even more without having to go through and the whole thing and try to silence all the humming and the silent parts. But it's still there, when I'm talking. But at least it's not humming the whole time. So that's one thing. And then with the music, so say we had the music bed playing. Let's see how. 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 And at the end of the day, like, I like it with the EQ in now. With the EQ on. So when in audio, when you say it's in, that means it's turned on. But it also sounds nice without the EQ with the music bed playing. So it also depends on, we're getting away with it pretty well because of the music bed. So if you have something in the background playing, that's another way to kind of hide that hum. But if you have quieter music or no music, then that's something you just definitely want to. First of all, is not have the fan on if at all possible. Set your computer to a setting where that fan's not running. It's running hot right now while I'm recording this because I have video going, I have a recording going, I have my music program going, so it's working pretty hard. But so those are certain fixes that you can do if you have that problem. You know, So say if there's a quiet part in the music and now that hum is coming through, then you would just go to those quiet parts and do the manual thing and maybe throw that gate on there like I just showed you where it's VST Dynamics. It's the only gate that's available stock in Cubase AI is this gate right here. And you just kind of dial it in, find the frequency. I swept across and see, okay, and then I mess with the threshold, which is like, okay, at what loudness will that gate clamp down, right? And it works kind of the opposite of a compressor, where a compressor clamps down on the overall signal, where the gate will clamp down on the opposite. So when it's quiet, anything that's quieter than the main signal, and that's why you set the threshold, it'll clamp down and it opens once the vocal source or the sound source goes through and pushes past a certain sound level. The gate opens up. That's why it's called a gate. So it opens and it closes based on the threshold we set right here. And it talks about how long you want to stay closed when it does attack, how fast it attacks, how strong it attacks, and then in the range, like how far. I think this is how far it's pushing down when it's attacking too. So that's one fix. So say you have your vocal recording, as good as you can get it. It's great. It's perfect, right? It's exactly where you want it. But now you're like, man, my bed track, or maybe one of my other tracks, are overpowering the main dialogue where I'm talking, right? If that's the main star of this overall recording, then you need to protect its space, right? And space is a right thing to describe it, because now we're talking physics. Two things can't occupy the same space at one time, and that it works the same for sound. So we know that this vocal lives primarily over here. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of
So right here,
Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone.
so what I'm going to do now is I know that the vocals typically live between the 500 hertz and 5K range, but the main area is this 1 to 2K range. But especially in dialogue, you want a little bit of that sub, so probably even lower. We'll look at, and we'll just listen. But so we'll prioritize from, let's say, 500 hertz right here to 5,000 hertz right here, and say anything that's clashing with my vocal, that's not this vocal, I'm going to turn that down and make space for this vocal here. So in this track bed, we're going to look.
This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how.
You hear that? How it cut through, the vocal cut through more because I've boosted the vocal over here, but I've cut the music bed over here. So now I've made room for the vocal. It does change a little bit of the quality of the music bed, but it's not the star of the show, so that's okay. And that's the pros. That's like the give and take of EQing and using EQ, and that process is called feathering. So you've made a part of a feather up here higher, and you made room for that higher part by moving another feather out the way and making it lower. So it feathered low, feathered high on the other track, and low here to make room for this, because the vocal is the star of the show, like we said. All right. And I would go through and if there's sound effects and other things going on, if it's clashing with the main track, the vocal performance, then you need to go through and maybe just turn it down a little bit, right? Maybe on this music bed, I'm like, it's just overpowering. Let me just turn it down.
Vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change.
But if I turn that down, that means you get less volume, right? And you don't hear as much. And sometimes that might be what you want to kind of help set the tone of the overall performance. Although it's not the show, it sets the tone. And so these two have to work together. Like this would be like the main singer, and this would be like the piano in the background, and not a solo piano, but like just an accompanying piano. So both important, but it's in support of this, but all this together is in support of the overall performance. So we just give and take, right? So that is, a good technique you can use to help make room for your vocals, clean the vocal up a little bit, and then make room for it, in the mix. And if I had multiple vocals, so say I took this and say these were all different vocals, and then I would start EQing. So say this was the main one still, I would keep that one in the center, and then say this was a supporting performance, then I would start panning those things so they're not all clashing. And then once again, these three, if they were all vocals together, give them a little bump on the other two. Not as much as on our main one, right? But then that will also help it cut through the music bed. And then, but to make sure that they're not clashing with the main one, these two supporting vocals aren't clashing with the main track. We did a little bit of EQ. Maybe we'll give this one more just above the 2K, and then we'll give this one just below. So it's in the same range still, and you have to listen back and see, hey, how they sound.
Let's see how.
So, how could I demonstrate that? can I, let's see. Let's see what we have here. I wish I had thought about this beforehand, but we'll see what we can do just to demonstrate this. Boy. Okay. So this is definitely limited, pretty big. Okay. So let's do something it'll sound funny, but it'll help bring home what we're trying to do here.
This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone.
All right.
This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how.
So you can hear that. Now let's hear it all together. See what happens.
This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see which frequencies. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of.
So I just to play around, I sent both of those, the main vocal to my delay and my reverb, hall reverb. Although it's got a little delay on there. We don't want the delay in there.
The vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals.
All right. So just to play around a little bit, I made a demonstration of how I use the supporting vocals just as a way to, support the main vocal. But hey, this one, the main vocal is going to live in the center, right? And then this supporting lives in the left side of the speaker, and this totally different one is going to live on the right side. And you don't have to be hard left or hard right. You can be somewhere in between, but the further out you go, the more it'll be the less it will overpower the main one, right? So say these voices were in this version, you don't have the ability to switch the pitch per se, but I did switch the quality of the sound to make it sound like, hey, this is kind of a different voice. So yeah, hopefully this made sense. This was a good demonstration of how to not only record, do a little bit of editing of your vocal, how to make the vocal sit in the mix is what we call that. So with the music bed, how to make it sit by feathering, right? So we took some out from the music bed and we gave that to the main vocal, right? We just kind of boosted that a little bit, right there. So, and then we kind of did the same kind of deal with this. Within that range, we just boosted those other guys here, left and right, slightly different from the main one, but still within the range of the cut from here, right? So they all kind of live there. They all have real estate to shine over the music bed, while the music bed, and maybe I'm like, hey, I love, there's a instrument somewhere in the music bed that I want to accentuate, and maybe I can raise that one up because the vocals aren't really living there. So I'll raise that up. Let's see what that sounds like.
Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocal.
Yeah.
Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how.
So then from here, I would have to decide, hey, which one sounds the best to me, right? So, just because you have the technique doesn't mean you always have to use it. It might sound good enough without messing with the EQ for here. Certainly I boosted it over here. I would keep the boosts, on these EQs here and the cuts here because you don't want too much rumble in your voice recordings. But maybe because there's no vocals going on in the music bed, like if there was like some guy singing in the background or whatever, that's part of the music, then it would make certainly make a difference. But because it's generally calm music, it's not making a big difference with or without the EQ, except for I think it does sound a little bit, the music bed does sound a little bit more lively with the EQ out. But also knowing like, hey, the vocals to start a show, it might not be bad to take it out, but it's not necessary for this, in my opinion. So
this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone.
So another key thing about this is now I've cut this. That means I can raise the overall volume of the music bed, and we can have a balance of like a loud vocal and pretty loud music bed, and they shouldn't be fighting against each other.
This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. See how. This is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change.
Okay, so and the rest of it'd be like me balancing, and it might be just a matter of me, raising the overall volume here in the clip a little bit, just a little bit. Maybe hitting a little bit of juice there in the fader.
See how this is a test of microphone. This is a test.
Oh, and too much reverb sometimes will also bury it too. So the more reverb, so for reverb, a lot of times it works like the more reverb, the further the sound fall seems, seems away and distant. So we'll turn maybe a little reverb here is fine, but maybe these guys here, I'll just crank it up on those guys. So I'm saying, hey, go to the reverb. Hall. Let's see what this sounds like. So to send, see, these are called sends. It says destinations, also normally called sends, SENDS for mixing, because you're sending the signal to the effects, to the special effect we want to use. We're not slapping it on here on the track itself, and that gives us more ability to blend it rather than it being stuck on that track. Because not all special effects will have the ability to, or sound effects have the ability to blend. So this one does allow you to blend. It should be at 100 actually. That's at 100 already. So, and that way I'm hearing, because if these aren't 100%, and we'll go over another video, but if these aren't 100% of this reverb right here, then you're getting more volume from what's being sent to it. So you're doubling the original sound. So you want that to be at 100%. So let's see what that sounds like.
Test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how this is a test of microphone. This is a test of vocals. Let's see which frequencies we can change. Let's see how this,
and that should be a lot more immersive sounding. So it's kind of a creepy sound, it's for the effects I chose to differentiate these different vocals, but hopefully it made sense as to like how to create space for your vocals in the overall track. If you have more than one vocal recording, then you need to give deference to your main vocal and then let the other ones support it if they're supporting vocals. Maybe you have one or two main things, a top line, like call and answer, like you have someone says a phrase and then another voice, or the same voice says a phrase, but it says it with a different tone, a different way. You can kind of do that. And those would be considered the main, the main stars of the show. But this third one right here might be just a supporting one. And maybe I would have these ones panned left, a little bit left, a little bit right. Like if this was a call and response, maybe I would have them just panned a little bit, right? Or maybe both in the center if they're not overlapping, or just panned a little bit. But then like this supporting one, I would have it panned even further because it's not a main character in this conversation. It's the background, but supporting, right? It's like the amen in the back of the church, right? So it's not the message, if that's a good analogy. So let's see, what else can I think of? I think that's it. I think I'll stop this here, but hopefully this was helpful, a good demonstration. And then when we do the live demonstration, the live lessons and stuff like that, you can ask questions and we can tailor, some of these techniques to your need. So, all right, this is Chris Nunn, Seven Sounds Productions. We did a little bit on EQ and Cubase AI, the free version of Cubase, stock plugins. So, peace.